All right, so what we have to do is we had to create, so this little comment was my clue to actually go to GitHub, and we have to create the repository on GitHub. And if we don't, when we did this before, in this example, in the Hello World example, we created a README file which initialized the repository. But if we don't create any README file, the repository won't be initialized. So we now are given these instructions, and this is basically what we did. So okay, sorry, this is the part I didn't see. So this first comment was my clue to create the repository, my repo, on your GitHub account. We were supposed to do this first, because then it gives us these instructions, which is exactly what we just did. We added a README file. We typed git init. We added that file. We created a commit. We added the remote origin, and it actually gives us a clue. It fills in our username. And then we're going to git push origin master. So we go back and do this again. Now it's going to work. Now, were you guys prompted for your username and password at that point? Yeah?
The first time.
Oh, the first time, not that time? Yeah, it was the last time around. Right. Okay. So you shouldn't, but now it should be stored in your keychain, so you don't have to type. You can change that setting, so if you're worried about someone getting control of your computer and pushing stuff to GitHub, you can make it so you have to enter your password every time. I think that's annoying. So anyway, this is my preference. So okay, so now I will not make this a comment. I will make this more clear to myself in the future. Anyway, okay, so we've now, that was an example where we started a repository locally and published it to GitHub. Now we're going to see how you would contribute to an existing branch on GitHub. So if you wanted to do that, you could change into that repository, pull. You can check out an existing feature. Check out. So you type git checkout and then the name of the branch. This one is called feature A. Make some changes, edit the file, add the file, type git commit, and git push. So this is kind of the shorthand. You've already got the repository created locally. You've already got the remote set up. This is the simple example. And then the last example is if you want to fork an existing repository. So let's say you wanted to fork the class repository. You could go to GitHub, to this website, click on the fork button. Or let's just say we wanted to go to Hello World. You can fork it. For me, it's not gonna. So I could go to one of yours and fork it, or you could go to my Hello World and try to fork it. This is basically you're creating your own fork of that repository that you can then work on. So you click on the fork, and then when you clone, what's going to happen when you fork is it's going to. Let me see if I can find an example. Let's just do. If I go to biocore/I. This is just an example. Let's say I wanted to fork this scikit bio. I can click on fork. Oh, I already forked that one too. What happens is it will generate it will say where should we fork it, and I'll say I want to fork it in my account. And what it's going to do is basically it's making a copy, which I will now have a fork, which is my username / the name of the repository, which is forked from the kind of mother repository. And now, if I wanted to have a local copy, I would do git clone and then the name of that repository using my username. So I would clone my copy, my fork, and then I would work on that. And then I would add the upstream. So in this case, if you were forking the class website, Python for data analysis, the upstream was my version. If I was going to, in this example, the upstream would be biocore / emperor. So that would be when I wanted to, then I would check my remotes, and then when I wanted to get the latest version of the upstream master, I would do git pull upstream master to get the latest version of the master branch, and then I could push, and I could just git push to put that local copy that I have back to my branch just to make sure everything is synced. And then I could start creating a branch using git checkout. If you do git checkout -b, that will create and switch to or check out the branch. And then I can start coding to that branch and do all the stuff we've been doing. Git add. There's git move and git remove, which will move or remove a file, but Git will be aware of it, so that's really handy. We can commit changes and then keep coding, do more commits, and then eventually you can push to the branch you're working on online using git push origin. So origin is going to be your local version. So if I show you, yeah, these are all my repositories, but the origin would be your version of it, and then the upstream would be the master version that you're collaborating with. So you would push to your online version, your origin, and then you'd issue a pull request like we saw before to that master one. So there's a few more commands about how you can delete a local branch. You can delete the remote branch. So if we wanted to, if we went back to, that was my repo, and we had, yeah. Anyway, you can. This is how you would delete a local branch or the remote branch using the command line. Git remote v. We saw this, how you see your list of remotes and origins. You can see a log of commits. So we said git log, and this would list all the commits. In this case, we just have one. You can stash or reapply changes. We've talked about remote and origin, upstream and origin, how these remotes work and how you can get different versions, and how pull and push works. There's a tab completion, so actually this might not come by default, but there's a way to get tab completion. And then if you want to add these lines to your .bash profile, you can, in this case it will change your prompt accordingly. And then depending on how this is set, see me if you want to do this, because this will change your prompt back to how mine is done. If you have your styled like mine, then this is fine. If you have it styled differently, then this part is going to change it to this. But what this does is if I type egit, this is from my colleague Yoshiki that came up with this. If I type egit, it'll change my prompt to be the time, the name of the branch, and the name of the repository, and then the name of the branch. So this is a handy way when you're working in Git a lot to be able to see this. When you're done, I just type dgit and it exits out. What it does is when I type dgit, it resets my prompt. So basically, you want this prompt to be whatever it is your prompt is already set as in your .bash profile. If this is all too much for you, this is just optional. Don't worry about it. There's some other stuff about how you would do bash completion. So that is GitHub. Are there any more questions? There's a number of different scenarios here, and you can kind of follow these to do whatever you're trying to do. Hopefully these tutorials are useful. Again, if you want to use GitHub in your final project, that would be great. I think it's a good thing to learn. I find it's also really useful to share code from projects, papers that I'm working on with reviewers and then with the public, so they can see how you did your data analysis. I think that's really critical. Otherwise, that's it for the course. It's been a pleasure having all you guys here, and I'm really impressed with how everyone's done and how much you've learned, and I'm looking forward to seeing your final projects and how that all comes together. So thank you.